Hey everybody, welcome back. We are working through a book, and that book is Code This Game by Meg Ray, art by Keith Zhu, very amusing art, certainly. And last time, with a link in the description if you need to refer back, we got up to page 26 where we were talking about variables, and we didn't have a bookmark handy, so we grabbed another book as our bookmark. And we were talking about variables and as objects themselves, the fact that they have both a type and some value that gets associated with them. And this is gonna come in handy because we need to store information and then recall it, and we want it to be quick and easy, so we can refer to different types of variables. And some of that information, I imagine, is going to be recalled to assemble the game here in the which is our goal: Attack of the Vampire Pizzas. So I'm gonna put the book in front of the camera. You can follow along, and I've left our computer right where we left off yesterday. So let's take a seat, and we'll put the book right here in front of the camera so we can talk about what is going on at this particular page. So here we have our variables, and we played a little bit with tacos as a string type. And you can see that here. I left it on the screen. We had our tacos, and let's see if I can mouse over to that really quick. My screens are misbehaving a little bit, but we'll try to get it all working again. We had the type of that was stored as best food, tacos, and that was a string type. And the value in there, of course, is tacos. And we had just run a method, run that through a method that the string type has called upper, and that changed our original value of tacos to include all uppercase value. Okay, so what are the rules for naming variables? Don't start with a number. Well, that was easy with tacos. We didn't start with a number. We just named it best food. Don't include spaces in terms of the name. That might get confusing because here, if we're trying to store our information into something with a singular name, if we put a space in there, how's the computer really going to know what that's one thing? And don't use special words or characters that have a specific meaning in Python. So again, we just simply don't want to confuse the computer as we're providing these instructions, that we actually want to store some information referenced with a variable name as opposed to doing these other operations. So those are good tips. Some of these characters, they just don't reappear. I don't see these pigs, or yesterday I said, oh, these cats are cute. I don't see them appear enough. Some of these characters are regular and reoccurring in the book. So like on our next page, we have a power-up and our little lightning bolt friend, and then it looks like Meg is going to stop in and talk to us on the next page. So here we're talking about how to get some input. As a programmer, you have to have Python print something that you type, but what if we want to print something the player typed? So this might come in handy if we have something like the player's name or character name, or actually the example that they say to try in the REPL is to actually set a character name and ask for input of that character name. So we'll try that in the REPL really quick. Let's jump over to the REPL. REPL meaning, let's see if you can remember, it was read, execute. Oh gosh, what was the P in REPL? I have to look back in the book. I forget what I use it all the time, and I forget what the name is in terms of REPL. We're going to read and execute, but then in order to kind of play, well, If you remember, put it in the comments or the chat. So here we go with the character name. We're going to type the character name character as our variable name. And then we're going to set that equal to whatever input we get. So the input is going to be whatever gets said in response to enter the name of a character. And so now we can prompt enter the name of a character. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so go ahead and just type in a character name. Let's try the one suggested as Hedgie. I wonder what happens if we do put a space there. So let's see, Hedgie. The heroic hedgehog. All right. I can't type this morning. Hedgehog. Right? And, okay, nothing happened. So when you press enter and turn, you won't see anything, says the book, but something did happen. Let's see. Character. Oh, look at that. Character. Our character name is stored in the type variable character. So there's our variable name. There's its type. And right in front of that, we get that space. Remember, I typed a space. Let's see if we can repeat this. And I'm using the up arrow keys to cause my previous commands to reappear. And so I'm going to say, hey, let me set that again. Let me do that again. And so I am not going to type a space this time. Hedgie. I love Hedgie. The heroic hedgehog. And now I'm going to ask about character and what the value is stored there. And now I no longer have this space. Okay, so let's get back to our book. Here we have the book. And, okay, you will be playing. So now type print. You will be playing and then plus character. So this is the way in which we could, instead of just typing character, report to the player what they've chosen. And so when you press enter and return, you get this. You will be playing Hedgie, the heroic hedgehog, or playing as, right? All right, so take a closer look. Print, you will be playing. You will be playing, and then a space is a string. We know that much so far. And character is a variable with a value that is a string. So character is also it contains a string as its value. So Python just printed them together. So it just took those. This is already a string, and this one holds a value that is already a string. So Python and its interpretation, when we call print, just printed them together. Strings and integers are two different data types. So they have two different kinds of type, depending on if they're stored in a variable or just kind of hanging out there on their own. So we can't just combine a string and an integer. If you want to combine them, you can convert the integer to a string. Oh, and look, here's a way in which we can convert to the string. So I think we encountered that the other day when we tried to add something to tacos. Let's go and check that out for a second. So we had in our history, I'm just going to use the up arrow key. I thought for sure we tried to, oh yes, it was the combined ages where we had an age and then my age and age and name. Oh yes, it's all coming back to me now. You can check that link in the description if you want to see that we had a name and it was something like dad. And then we had an age, and it was something like 44. And then we tried to combine, we'll say combined name and age into a new variable, and we said name plus age. And we cannot combine the two different data types, string to a string, not integer. The first one's not an integer. It's the name, right? And that's a string, and we know that because we say type name. Okay, but if we have a call to string and age, let's do this. We will set age, the new age, that 44, is going to be a string of the age. So now, let's say type age. Oh, it's a string now. Can we do something? I don't know. We may be getting ahead of ourselves, but let's do age equals int age, because we want an integer. We want just a number without any floating point value there. So let's say age. Type age. Back to an int. Python's pretty clever. So let's do print and age plus, let's see, now we'll do name plus a space plus age. Oh, now we left age as an integer, but what if we say string? Dad, 44. Put it in a verb here. That is 44. So there we have it. We can use this operator plus to put strings together. So that may come in handy later as we build the game. All right. Oh, and it's your turn. We were just taking a turn. Okay, so try creating a quiz with at least 5 questions. Use input to ask questions about a topic that you know a lot about. Store each question in a different variable. If you have a friend or family member nearby, you can ask them to fill in the answers. Otherwise, you can fill them in yourself. When you're done, use print with each variable to show the user's answers. So we could create 5 inputs, right? And then we ask them each of those inputs. And I'm surprised they have this at this stage, because what I'd want to do is repeat those questions. Oh, wait, maybe Grace has a little bit more information that'll help this along. Let's see. There are many different types of bugs that you might run into with input. That's very true. Input is very dangerous in that regard, that we can get us into trouble with a lot of bugs. Here are some things to think about when you get error messages. Am I trying to combine 2 different data types? That's just what we were doing. Age, 14, and then converting it to a string in order to print it together. And do all the parentheses and quotation marks have pairs? So, is it, do I have this parenthesis for print paired up with one at the end, not to confuse it with this one, this set. Here's this and not this, where I've left out this one because I think I'm enclosing it here. And when I combine strings, did I separate them with a plus sign or not? So if you just put it here without any sort of concatenation, without putting it together with that plus, we're going to get an error. This I keep on coming back thinking about this input with 5 different questions, and as soon as we run input, it's going to ask the question immediately. So there's more to come that allows us to ask it one at a time, one after another. I don't want to get to that too soon, because we're really working through the book. But they do ask us to take a turn here and use input to ask questions that we know the answers to. So like answer 1, remember we can't make this 1_answer because variables can't start with numbers. But then answer 1 could be input and something we know, what is the color of the sky, right? And so we'll just go with that. And we got answer 1, and see, it immediately asks you what is the color of the sky in order to set that string. So I am gonna save that exercise for next time. But we're going to go ahead and look at the next page, and we may come back to that. So that was page 30. I'll make a note of that. All right, so here are a whole bunch of ideas on this page, page 31. We'll see what ideas and whether or not that is useful at all. Let's see. Maybe it's useful for that your turn step. It says, let's pause and look at a pattern that you might have noticed. We've used two commands that have parentheses after them, print and input. Why do we need those parentheses? Print and input are both functions. In Python, built-in functions are pre-programmed commands that take in data and they do a task for us, and they're going to return a response. It's like a little machine. You put something in and we'll get something out. How do they work? Well, this is the basic syntax for a function. We got its name and then its argument. So that's what we're going to put into the function. All right, and that's going to go inside the parentheses. So that fits the pattern, right? That fits the pattern of, well, a lot of what we've seen thus far. We got over here, we've got our age, right? And our inputs being a function. Here are the parentheses, and then the quotes and the argument being passed into here, and we can pass whatever we want. So that fits the pattern. Functions have three parts: the function name, the argument, that's what's going in, and parentheses. And the function tells something. It tells the program what action to take. So the argument or arguments. So we could do multiple, and the parentheses. Okay. There it is. Hello world, and this print is just a function, and that's the syntax. And I've thrown around the word syntax a lot, and here it looks like they're taking a pause to define it. That's the word for how a command is written. If you write it a different way, it's not the correct syntax, and you get a syntax error. So let's go to our next page here. Mad Lib. Oh, and Meg steps in with it. Let's put together everything that we've learned so far to create your own fill-in-the-blank silly story. You can make up your own story or use mine. Oh, I can't. Okay, so we're going to go over here and say my name is, and set a variable here. Username, favorite food, monster. It looks like they all might be strings. Remember that the REPL doesn't save any code. Stay in the REPL until you've completed the whole Mad Lib. All right, so does it walk us through, or are we building this on our own? Let's see. So what needs to happen? Here's our plan, right? We have to ask the person who's playing, the user of this game, or the player, to fill in the blanks with the words. So for each of those blank words, we're going to use an input function and create a unique variable for each response. So this is kind of like the 5 things that you know about a little quiz, right? And then we're going to display the story with the new words filled in. So they don't see the story ahead of time. So we'll have to use print to display the story on the screen. In the print argument, we'll combine we already know how to combine the string with the plus, right? We'll combine those things that we have collected and then put them in the story. That was our first little kind of game / program. So part 1, fill in the blanks. According to the chart, we need to ask someone to fill in the blanks. We need to ask the player to fill in these blanks. Use this pattern to create a separate line of code for each blank. Then we'll print the new story, and then we'll do some debugging. Now, I'm troubled by this because we have used this pattern to create a separate line of code for each blank, right? But we have to fill it in where prompted. Let's skip ahead to see. Yeah, we'll have to check for logic errors here. I'm just not sure how they're structuring this. Each time you get an error message, yeah, we will need to do some corrections. I'm wondering that they don't necessarily make it playable by someone else with the example. So, we can fill in our own silly values for this. But what ideally we'd want to do is ask our player what their name is and what their favorite food is when they hit play. So that looks like it will. We're not going to do that one then. We're going to come to the end of the introduction. So that means the next time we will start on this page 35 and maybe beyond. Oh no, this is still introduction. We might skip a lot of this stuff because we want to get to the game, and we can always come back. So don't be surprised if we skip some of this stuff, even though it is fundamental. Next time we work through this book, there's not too much left. You know what? Let's finish this right now, and then we'll be at part 2 of Code This Game. So we're going to go to the development environment. We can use the REPL to play around with Python if we want to create and share programs like games. Use an IDE, the development environment or text editor, to create and save programs. So here we've got a different way to work, right? And that's what I was talking about with what was it? This. Let's bring it up here. That's what I was talking about when I said, hey, we've got a computer, and this was the REPL, but we need to go into some kind of code editor, and let me clear that out. Some sort of code editor where we're going to type the code, see the output here, just like we were with a REPL, but then we can actually say file and save. And so we can save our work, and we don't have to retype it every time. And so I've selected this PyCharm on the Mac, also available for Windows and Linux operating systems, like with the exception maybe of a Chromebook. I haven't tried this quite yet on a Chromebook, but there are other Python development environments. If you ask anyone who programs and you ask them about a development environment, they'll know what you're talking about and help you get that set up. So, we may be dipping into our development environment on the next few pages. Let's see. Try it out. Go to your development environment. Then you got a whole bunch of shortcut keys, copy, paste, etc. And we may be using a Python package here called Pygame. Interesting. Okay. So it's actually saying, once you have Python, we're going to add a little bit of pre-existing code to get this Pygame. Let's see, is that a requirement? Installing Pygame. We now have Python, the REPL, and the idle up and running. We are just missing one more thing, Pygame. Yep, it's going to be a requirement. So we're going to develop this with an existing library of code, and I'm going to go back over to my terminal in order to add that to our project. And so I'm actually using a development environment here with a tool called Conda, and they actually say to use a command called pip. Let me do a quick query here of my environment. Yeah, I already created an environment. Conda activate code this game, and now we could do a conda install pip. Let's see here. Already installed which pip. Okay, so the book says, and you will have this if you have a working Python installation, is that you will have this command. I was doing a little prep of because I want to use that pip command. I need to make sure it was available on my specific setup. So we're going to use this command. Windows users and Mac users may need to type this. Well, that's worth noting. Let's try that exact command. So it's going to be, I think the only way it differs is that they say Python and Python 3. I have this set up that I can type Python, and the module name, that -m, is going to be pip, and install Pygame, and we're going to install it for ourselves. Now, I don't think I need all this, because I'm inside of an environment, but you may. Yeah, see, there goes Pygame. We can confirm that it's working and ready by saying import. We can open up our REPL We can say import Pygame. So this may look a little bit different for you. All right, there we go. You know, drop it in comments or chat if it's if you're having some difficulty there. That's the sort of thing that we have to need more interactivity about, because that is something that might be specific to your configuration or approach that may need addressing. So here we have our environment. Let's see if we can import Pygame here. Pygame looks like it's available, and if I run that code, it says hello from Pygame. Great. All right. Well, this is probably one of the more useful kind of install steps to talk about, but it's also very particular to how I have set up and got the environment running for my game development here, because we didn't go into the details and follow it to the letter. This may require a little bit more work depending upon your setup. So we've got Pygame. Oh, it comes with, whoa, look at this. Pygame comes with what looks like a game. So check to see if it's working. Pygame examples aliens to run an example program. Okay, yeah. Hey, heck, we can go and play something. That'd be fun. So let's do Python. We will use the module Pygame examples aliens and see what happens. Hello from Pygame, and on one of the... Oh, whoa! That is loud. I gotta quit that. Holy cow. I did not expect that at all. That was crazy. So it comes with an example game, Pygame examples aliens, and if I can turn down that volume, maybe we can try to actually play it. That was fun. All right, so let's... I've killed the volume a little bit here, but I still want to pick it up if I can. So let's try Pygame aliens. Here it goes. Oh my god. Didn't even help. Still booming. Oh, wow. I can play. Oh, I can shoot the aliens and die. All right, let's try that again. Hey, now I'm getting the hang of it. It's left and right. And spacebar. Hey, what's my score? Ooh, 13? All right. Way better than last time. $26. Ooh, you see that double shot? Oh, 32 is my high. Oh, it looks like it just closes when you die. The game dies when you die. All right, that was cool. And we didn't really have to do very much more coding or programming beyond just importing this Pygame module, which is an existing set of code that's going to help us kind of scaffold our game. So here is talking about the troubleshooting. You got to get that Pygame code in there to help with game development. All right, and here's what I thought would be something that we can kind of clear out before we get to part after the introduction, right? Where's the end of this introduction? Yeah, part 2, which is, get to coding the actual game, right? So we're talking about some elements of game development. So, what are the pieces and parts that we're going to try to assemble? What makes games fun to play? Things like the space where it takes place. So, what's the setting? The rules, what's allowed and what's not allowed, just based on the design of the game. The mechanics, what actions are you going to take? How are you going to move and participate? So what are the mechanics like? The components, the game pieces or sprites, like what makes up the game with characters, enemies, items, what sort of things are the ingredients of the game? And then finally, what are the goals? What do you need to do or achieve to or to avoid to win the game? So those are some of the components of the game design. take a turn and, pause the video or whatever and think about your favorite video game. And what can you identify those 5 elements? I mean, if you know what, that might be worthwhile just talking about in a second. Let's go back here and think about these kind of 5 elements and a favorite video game. You take I don't know, maybe Minecraft, right? Where the game takes place. It takes place in a blocky world, right? A virtual 3D world that you can move around in with different biomes. What are the rules? What's allowed? What's not allowed? Well, if you don't turn on any cheats or anything, right? There are rules to how things are crafted and how you go about surviving. What's your goal? Survival mode would be survival, right? The mechanics. What do you do in the game? What action are you performing? You're moving your character around in the setting. You're battling mobs. Within that game, the final piece, components. So what makes up the game? So the blocks, the ores, the enemies and mobs, etc. So that would be that's essentially this your turn step. And then what makes a game fun? Game designers carefully develop each of these 5 elements. They need to make them interesting and include a story to improve enjoyment of the game. So games that have the right amount of challenge and are not too easy and not too difficult to win are the most fun because they achieve a balance. If it's too easy, who on earth is going to want to enter the game? But if it's too difficult, no one will believe that they have any chance of winning. So we're going to look for this balance as we put together our game. Think about your favorite game again. It wasn't developed on the first try, so certainly not. You need to do 2 things if you're going to develop a game, and that's you need to collaborate and you need to iterate. And these are some of the folks that you may collaborate with. Right, we're gonna do this together. The work through the book and collaborate kind of with the author of this book, Meg Ray. We're collaborating. But if this were a bigger design studio, if you're doing this for your job, you might work with these sorts of people in a process to develop the game. So you might work with a software engineer that knows the ins and outs of the program's code. You might work with the game designer who's thinking a lot about what the 5 components and how that mix will occur. You might work with the project manager who makes sure that everyone's on time, getting the job done and bringing the pieces together that they bring to the table. You might work with play testers who make sure what you're making is in fact fun. You might work with graphic artists who are going to design the look or the sounds, not so much the graphics, but maybe an audio artist, right? Quality assurance engineers make sure the game is not going to break in people's hands. So this process is iterative, meaning that you're going to be going over it and repeating it in this kind of software development process. So we're going to identify what the player needs. We're going to set up a plan. We're going to build that thing because we planned it. Why not get around to build it? We're going to test it out. And then we're going to find out how the players feel about it. And if they don't really like it, because our whole idea here is to get something that is fun, we're going to go back to our plan and we're going to revise it. We're going to change our plan. And then we're going to go and build it again, test it, and keep on getting feedback until we're ready to say, okay, this is the time when we need to release our game into the wild and move on to another game. So it's important to know who you're building this game for, because you may not get at a fun game for everyone, but maybe you get at it for some people, right? And that's a good thing. Game developers start with by asking, like, who's going to play my game and what will they enjoy?
Right, so that will help us get to this place where we can actually say, okay, now it's time for this game to be played by people out in the public, right? We're going to do a lot of problem solving and debugging of our code. And let's see what this last green section says. Okay, so this says, well, you're not alone. Yeah, we got the author of this book, but you can also go out to a greater Python community at some of these websites like wiki.python.org, python.org/wiki, and find not only documentation and tutorials, but we can find code snippets. So if you're trying to do something already, if we come to the point where we don't know how to do something, we can find existing code that programmers have made available online and take those snippets and integrate them into our own code with some attribution. And I think that was on the here. So if we're sharing our work, the work of others, it's important to also give credit to whose work we're also highlighting. Okay, and finally, we will talk about, in our introduction, creating comments. So in our code, if we want attribution, if we want to understand what we're doing later when we come back to it, it's important to give ourselves little comments as we work. So just like you might comment on a video on YouTube, you should comment on your computer code, because then we will be able to come back and find out what we meant when we first wrote it, because it might not be entirely clear. So if we're commenting, we might be commenting for ourselves, but we also might be commenting to give attribution. And remember this little guy, oh, there's a reappearing artwork, a little character. That little hash mark, he's the little commenter. And that will be he'll be handy when we want to either put some description into our code, we want to attribute some of the work to someone else, or if we just want to take some of our code out temporarily, we can stick him in the front. Okay, so by now we have a Pygame, we have Python installed. Here's Meg again, and she's ready. She's telling us we are now ready to code this game. So I think in the next video, hey, what's this all about? Type this. Oh, wait, we know that. How to read the code. We'll get to that. So I think in the next video, what we'll do is we'll get to part 2. I guess the introduction was all of part 1. Let's see. Yeah, we didn't do very much else. Part 1 was just the introduction. Part 2, we'll get to code this game, which it looks like it has 13 steps. Oh, only 13 steps to get a game. And then part 3 will be break this game, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and then that's the whole thing. So part 2 will be code this game, and we'll just get a little preview because I'm really curious what we're going to be doing first. We'll set up the game window. So by the first few pages, just within the first chapter, that first step is that we will have a window on our computer screen that will be our game. All right. So that we'll say goodbye to our computer setup, and we'll put the book away with a bookmark, I guess. I did not prepare for bookmarking this book today either, so we will take our other book again and stick that right in the middle, and then and close it up. And right now we're leaving off on page 50. So wow, we did a lot of work. I wonder how many pages there are total in here. Let's see. We'll just count the pages, not counting the appendix. So there are 300. So we have worked just through these 2 videos. We've worked through a significant portion of this book with 50. So next time, it's on to code this game, and that's a lot of fun. So I will see you then.